What's your craziest one night stand story? NSFW. About a week after I got dumped, I posted a shirtless picture on our 4R subreddit and a girl in my city was interested. We exchanged pictures and arranged a drinking date. Met for drinks, seemed to like each other fine, agreed to go to her place. On the way there, she stopped at a pharmacy and bought lube. Went upstairs to her condo. We start fooling around. Clothing comes off and we start fucking. A few minutes in, she gets up and says, "You know what I love about one night stands? I don't have to be someone I'm not. I'm going to go do some drugs. Do you want some drugs?" Proceeds to bump coke off her kitchen table. We fuck again. She threatens to kill me twice throughout as dirty talk. Walk home in a daze. Pretty confused about life and feeling soul drained. Buy a burrito. Bump into a friend I hadn't seen in almost 10 years who'd apparently moved next door. One time my friend John and I drove a couple hours to Boston for an old friend's birthday party that we hadn't seen in a while. It starts as a house party and after that sort of dies down we decided to go hit some bars. I hit it off with a girl, so we broke off from the group and stayed the night at her place. Next morning I wake up, get dressed, and head out into the kitchen. I almost shit a fucking brick because who was sitting at the table? Fucking John. We, completely unknown to each other, went home with girls who happened to be roommates. Not me but my best friend in college had been speaking to this girl on Tinder and they eventually met up one night. One thing led to another and they ended up back at hers. They started going at it when suddenly the girl ran out of the room and started being violently sick in the bathroom. Turned out she hadn't been feeling well all day. My friend put her to bed, got her a glass of water etc. Asked the girl if she wanted him to stay. She said no, and then he left. To get out of her student flat he had to exit through the kitchen. He ran into the girl's roommate, who my friend had met previously. They started chatting in the kitchen and then start having sex. Turns out the girl's roommate also fancied the pants off my pal. As they were just getting into it though the girl asked them to stop then she ran to the bathroom to also be violently sick. Turns out both roommates had food poisoning from their dinner the night before. She came over in the morning, we fucked. She made me watch the first episode of Gossip Girls. I fell asleep for 6 hours. When I woke up she was still sitting in the same position. Her phone died while I was asleep and she didn't bring her charger, so she sat there doing absolutely nothing for however long. I had to have my grandma call me so I could tell her I had to leave. She offered to stay at my house while I was at my grandma's. I did not know her at all. When I was an 18-year-old virgin, I worked at a store in a shopping mall. There was a car insurance place a few doors down from our store. And there was a woman that worked there that was about 28 years old, and a solid 10/10. She had this real sexy librarian thing going, glasses, hair always in a ponytail, or braided pigtails. I joked with my buddies a few times that I should ask her out. One day she was in our store and after chatting a while, she made a comment about it being a while since the last time she got laid, and she made it somewhat clear that I had a shot. I decided I was going to do something I never thought I had the balls to do. During closing time I went over to her store and asked her straight up. Me, got any plans after work? Her, nope. Me, wanna fuck? Her, yes I do. I have no recollection of how good it was. It was my first time, so I was just happy to get my dick sucked. The next morning, she asks me if I could drive her 9-year-old kid to school. Most awkward drive of my life. A few days later, she is in the mall shopping and brings her kid by my store to say hi. I didn't know how to deal with this. It seemed like I trapped myself. The next day I told her that I didn't feel mature enough for her and I didn't want to continue seeing her. I was pretty close to chickening out from that conversation and just quitting my job and disappearing. Girl from Tinder hits me up at 3:30 am and asks to come over. Obviously a booty call. I gave her my address. She comes in with a huge ass duffel bag that has wow characters all over it. I thought it was pretty dope, until she pulled actual dope out of it and proceeded to shoot up on my couch. She spent the next 45 minutes picking at her face in my mirror and throwing up in my bathroom. I told her she had to leave. When I was in college, I got a phone call from this girl I occasionally hung out with. She was in my college town with some friends and said they had a hotel room with 3 girls but there were only 2 guys, and would I like to come over? I did. I stayed over at a co-worker's house due to terrible weather after work one time. Her husband was out of town, but he told me not to worry about it over the phone. We played a few board games with her kids and lost track of time. She took the kids to bed and I headed for the guest room. I had work the next day and was exhausted, so I only took off my shoes and passed out immediately. I wanted to get up early so I could shower and try to get to work before everyone else woke up, so my alarm went off while it was still dark. I obviously woke in an unfamiliar room and swung my legs out of bed, smashing my toes into the nightstand. I started bleeding everywhere and my toenail popped off. Everyone in the house woke up to my incident. She ended up driving me to urgent care as we could not get my toe to stop bleeding, but took 2 hours due to the snow. Back when Yik Yak was a thing, a girl said she wanted a guy to watch a movie with and also hook up with. This was over spring break, so campus was dead. I was at my apartment next to campus because I had an internship and she was a foreign exchange student staying on campus. Anyway, I respond to her and we comment back and forth, then exchange Snapchats. She ends up being pretty cute, and since I had a roommate and she didn't, I made the trek across campus to her place. It ends up she has a bunk bed. It was like a top bunk with her desk underneath type of setup. So I climb up and we squeeze together in her twin size bunk bed. 5 minutes into the movie, we start going at it. It went about 2 hours, which is not a brag because I did not have the cardio to last that long. I barely made it out alive. We were trying every position we could, but when the roof was only 6 inches above me, it was really tough. We eventually make it to the end, and I walked to the hall bathroom to clean up. I woke up early for my internship, so we said bye and went on our merry way. I didn't hear from her or see her again until she texted me during finals asking if I stole her passport. I didn't, because who would do such a thing? Went to a buddy's wedding, held in our mutual hometown of 12k people. Bride was in an optometry program and had a number of friends from the program in attendance. At the reception, I proceed to tie one on. They had a margarita bar and kegs, so it was that kind of affair, and hit it off with one of the bride's optometry friends. Our group decides to depart and hit the town, which constituted going to the towny bar down the street and drinking until we were plowed. I talk the girl into walking up the hill to my parents, who were at the wedding reception house, stopping for multiple gross McKeowards along the way. We get there and do our thing in my childhood bed, and I promptly pass out. I wake up in the morning, vaguely recalling some of the previous night's events, and am totally shocked to see this girl in my bed, situated just down the hall from my parents' bedroom. My stirring wakes her and she takes one look at me and says, "You're gonna have to sneak me out of here, aren't you?" I replied, "Yeah." She was totally cool with it. I went out and took the lay of the land. My parents were already up and in the kitchen, but I had an avenue to get her out unseen and took my shot. She was on it and we made it out clean. I took her to breakfast and found her a ride home, because it was way further than I was going to drive and I had a buddy heading that way. My parents didn't find out for years, and it was way too late for them to be pissed when they finally did. Always appreciated that girl's effort. I had a one night stand and a BJ the morning after, on a cruise ship. We were flirting up at the bar late one evening, and went on a walk around the ship. We ended up going up the helipad at the front of the boat and started getting a little heavy. We went ahead and did the damn thing, only to realize after that the entire bridge crew could clearly see us fucking at the front of the boat like a dirty Titanic reenactment. The next day she came by my cabin and we had a round two on the balcony of my cabin. I got blown while enjoying the view of the Caribbean Sea in the morning sunshine. It was pretty damn great. Not me, but my college roommate. He went to a party one night, got wasted, and brought back an equally wasted girl back for some fun times. We had paper thin walls in our apartment so I could usually hear everything, so I just popped in my earbuds and played some WoW. I hear screaming next and not the sex kind. Apparently not 30 seconds in, she threw up all over him and his bed. Odd part is they ended up dating a while later. It wasn't supposed to be a one night stand. We had worked together for roughly a year and he spent the entire time thinking I was a lesbian. To be fair, he was half right. He finds out from his roommate, our boss, that I'm not, and he asks for my number. We flirty text for a while. I'm really digging this dude. He finally asks me to meet him and some friends for New Year's Eve. We meet up, get completely shit-faced and spend the whole night all over each other. We go back to his place. We proceed to break the bed frame and forget that his windows are open, so the entire neighborhood heard everything. In the process of breaking the bed, I had fallen and bruises the entire left side of my hip, back, leg, butt. But we can't tell anyone at work, no dating policy. So we decide to keep it under wraps. We keep talking, keep texting, things seem great. I move into a new place and we talk about christening the apartment. Then Friday comes along and he leaves for lunch and never comes back. Our co-workers are calling the hospitals and police departments. This isn't like him. Or so we thought. He turns up over 2 days later, knocking on his roommate's door at 3 AM, explaining that he spent his entire paycheck and bank account on strippers and coke. He is promptly shipped off the rehab in New York. He calls me from the airport to apologize and swears I'll be the first person he calls in 90 days. That was January of 2009. Never did get that phone call, but I did recently see him on Facebook and he looks happy and clean, so I'm happy for him. I'm a single gay man and sometimes I drink too much wine and think about how nice a big old dick would be and end up on Grindr. One time, I got on Grindr and started chatting with Darren, a nice African American guy with a fat dick and a wicked sense of humor, and he decides he wants to come to Big Danny's house of hoeing to get the business. While arranging the dick appointment, Marty, a different guy, messages me trying to get action as well. I tell Marty that I have found my dick for the night but I'll hit him up another time. Anyway, Darren says he's gonna take a shower because I don't suck dirty dick. But his shower takes forever and he says he's on the way, but Grindr keeps saying he's 8 miles away, so I left Marty know that he can come get some of this. 15 minutes later, I'm standing outside smoking a cigarette when Darren and Marty show up at the exact same time. It's hella awkward and I'm drunk and I try to explain that I wasn't being shady, I just thought Darren had flaked. Darren says well we can all go inside. Marty happily agrees, and I spend the next 20 minutes with a dude in both ends trying to get them to come quickly because I feel hella awkward and don't know any other way to get out of my first threesome. And that's my wildest one night stand. She let me put it in the butt. Unfortunately she didn't prep and probably needed a shit before we got started, because when we turned the lights on and there was shit smeared everywhere. Told this before, but I lost my virginity in a one night stand with a girl I just met at a bar. We ended up fucking behind some bushes in front of an apartment building at like 3 AM. Went 2 rounds. Anyone could have seen us if they passed by but no one did. Although just before that some guys passed by in a car while she was giving me a BJ at a park nearby and started cheering and hollering. We were both very drunk. Late to the party but here it goes. I was celebrating my 25th day and went out, met a cute guy and went back to his place. When we were on our way he explains me that he lives with his mom so I'll have to be quiet. I was like WTF. Okay, whatever, I'm already here, in another city far from everywhere, so went into the house, very quiet and we did the deed. Next morning I'm like okay, I need to leave cause my parents are waiting for me for day lunch. I lived 2 hours away in another city, so I planned my escape and when I'm coming down the stairs his mom is there and says hi. Long story short I ended up having breakfast with her. Told her it was my day so she made some really good eggs and toasts for me and we were having really nice conversation when I told her I needed to leave and I had no idea how, and she explained me everything. Super cool mom. Never saw the guy again but I'll never forget that day celebrarian. met this girl and sang her brown-eyed girl on the grass behind a strip club and then ate and fingered her ass all night. When the ex and I had just broke up, we went our separate ways and I got with her younger cuter sister for a fun night. But she ended up having an adventure also. I heard she ended up with this guy who had a leaky faucet in his bathroom. I know this because she confessed to me coming over the day after to pick up some clothes, that she said she pissed the bed in some dude's house because he left his faucet going. Now she carries a backpack in her car filled with clothes just to be safe. Said the guy was real mad she pissed his bed, so she took something valuable from him when he wasn't paying attention. She thinks he still doesn't know she did it. I wonder if he will ever find out. I hooked up with this girl who talked about her sister all the time while we were doing it. Apparently her sister's ex who she slept with after they broke up had the weirdest dick she had ever seen. Also her sister pissed some dude's bed on a one-night stand. She was crazy hot though. A friend and I who I met through work and ended up flatting with for 6 months went on a holiday to Fiji because he was going back to England soon. A group of girls from the States were staying at the backpackers we were staying at and we bumped into them and chatted with them a few times. One of the girls was very forward and after a night of bar hopping with the group I found myself with her in the open boot trunk of a taxi taking us back to our quarters. The taxi had a subwoofer that the girl happened to be leaning against and after a few minutes of music vibrating through her she gave me the fuck look. She came back to our place and me and her started going at it in the main bedroom with my mate in the next room. As she was about to climax, she literally yelled, "Oh. God. Finish me." The next day my mate was laughing at me and said, I don't know if you guys were having sex last night, or playing Mortal Kombat on a Nintendo. For me it'd have to be one from a few years ago. Ran into a girl I knew from college while out at a bar with some friends. One thing led to another and we ended up back at my place. Everything went fine until I wake up the next day and this girl had pissed herself in my bed. I got the fuck out of my own room and just sat stunned in my living room. Farmed out suggestions of what to do to a couple friends. Best suggestions were kick her out, burn your entire room, and leave and never go back. That's her apartment now. When I was much younger, picked up this petite woman at a bar in Valdosta. Head back to her house, both of us a bit drunk, and have so drunk sex. Pass out. Get up a few hours later to piss. Go back to what I think is her room. Pass back out. Wake up being ridden by her slightly chubby roommate and have some of the best sex of my life. Girl was amazing. Original girl finds me in her roommate's bed and starts to pout, but eventually makes all of us breakfast. End up in an amazing threesome, mainly due to chubby girl, and pass out again. Get woken up roughly and end up hiding in closet as roommate's estranged husband inspects house because it smelled like sex as he picks her up to go to marriage counseling. Turns out roommate's estranged husband is my new boss. I find this out when both of the girls I slept with just a week before show up at my work to take his truck. Get to spend a few hours listening to my boss complain about his wife and how much a bitch he was being and how she was living a slut and how he was going to kill the next guy he caught her with. I quit my job the next day and got tested for VD. Went out clubbing for the first time and met a friend of a friend. Went back to her place and watched her 120 pounds girl snort line after line of coke off her bedside table. Around 4 AM her ex-boyfriend kicked in the door and surprise this dude is so high airplanes are brushing his toes. He wants to fight me and after a brief altercation realized this is a bad plan. He ends up leaving and the girl really wants me to stay and offers to let me snort coke off her ass. Worst part is I ended up seeing her again a few months later and the so-called ex showed up again and smashed her television with his fist. Might see her again for New Year's. Was running a pirate convention, cosplay, Ren fair types, artists and musicians, etc. and met a guy. We clicked right away and I hung out with him and his friends into the wee hours of the morning singing pirate songs and drinking. Ended up telling him he could plunder my booty. Had raunchy and wonderful sexcapades in my corset and wench skirts. Spent the night with him in his hotel room. Went to lunch with him and his friends the next day. Found out he was only there because his friends dragged him to try and cure his depression because he was in the middle of a divorce. Ended up really enjoying himself and me. We kept in touch for a while. I still hear from him every few years by email. He's remarried now. I'm married, too. But it was a fun romp. Oh geez. Met this girl at a bar and got her to come back to my place. Things were going well and everything was cool. Did the deed. Went to sleep. Woke up the next morning, she was gone, which is cool. Right on. But my bed was soaked. Like damn, it was wet. And I was thinking, man, I knew I did okay, but I didn't lay some pipe that good, did I? So I got up and leaned over to smell it. Yep, that's piss. This girl wet my bed like a lot. I was pretty pissed, huh? So I go back to the bar a couple days later with my buddy who's a regular there and told him the story, and he says to me, oh yeah, she's a regular too and she's done that quite a few times and has a reputation now. We call her Water Gun. Meet at the club. She's drunk but her friends drive us back to her place. I wait for her to sober up because it makes me extremely uncomfortable. Have mediocre sex. She had this giant VCH piercing she must have been proud of, but it clicks the teeth. Annoying. She drives me home afterward. Nickelback's Animals plays. She cranks it up and she gets into it. Talks about how we were animals last night. 100% noped. She gave me her number. Threw that shit away. Fucking disappointed that I had sex with a Nickelback fan. I got spit roasted by 2 Asian ladyboys in Thailand. I was dating one of them and then one day she asked if I would sleep with her friend, who had a crush on me and was very interested in sleeping with a blonde, blue-eyed white man for the first time. The following Friday the friend came over to our apartment and I shagged her. Eventually I was on all fours on the bed sucking her dick. At this point my ladyboy girlfriend joined in and she ominously began rubbing lube on my ass. Next thing I knew, her dick was up my butt and she was pegging me as her friend was banging me in the mouth. I had sucked ladyboy dick before, but that night was my first time taking dick up my ass. I felt emasculated, but it was quite hot. The spit roasting ordeal only lasted about 5 minutes as my GF failed to hold her nut, probably because my virgin ass was so tight. Edit. Let me just say that those 2 ladyboys looked indistinguishable from real Thai females. No Western man could tell the difference. They were both very petite and both had lovely DD breasts. I'm a sucker for petite girls with massive fake teddies. My favorite porn actress is Nessa Devil. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.